Hi and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave and this is episode 1563A and today's date is May 8th, 2018, and the title of the episode is Banks Are Preparing for an Economic Catastrophe. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now we're starting to realize, and we knew this was happening, that more and more countries, they're moving away from the dollar. I mean, China's been doing it, Russia's been doing it, Venezuela created their own cryptocurrency, the petros, and we see that other countries, they're moving towards a different currency. Iran has done this, they moved away from the dollar, and we're starting to see that countries are starting to talk to each other, and they're using the blockchain to get around sanctions, to deal outside of the dollar. And we're seeing that there was a meeting between the leaders of Venezuela and Palestine, and they decided that they're going to create a binational bank to fund infrastructure, technology, industry between the two countries. The bank will be started off with 20 million Venezuelan petros, and it looks like they're going to be using cryptocurrencies to do this. And we're going to see a lot more countries start to do this. We know that Russia is looking at the blockchain, China's looking at the blockchain, and basically the central bankers are sitting there scratching their heads saying, we cannot let this happen. We need to stop this. This is why they created the futures market in Bitcoin. The same thing that they've done with the precious metals market. They created the futures market. It's all paper, and they're able to basically control the price by selling a lot of this paper, and they're able to bring this price down. They're also using the Mt. Gox proceeds, and they're using those funds to bring down Bitcoin when they sell a lot of them. And they're using all of this to try to control Bitcoin and make it look like it's very volatile. It's not safe. You shouldn't be in it. It's like gambling, and the central bankers are trying to protect you. We already see that the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, they released an economic letter on May 7th suggesting that Bitcoin's decline following its $20,000 peak was a result of the launch of Bitcoin futures trading. Not necessarily, because as we can see on the graph, it was really brought down by those individuals selling all of those Bitcoins from Mt. Gox. And each time they sold it, the price came down. And this is basically what they've done. Now they're going to try to control the cryptocurrency market with the Bitcoin futures, and this is why they created it. And this is what they do all the time. They use paper to control precious metals, paper to control the cryptocurrency. But when all is said and done, it doesn't mean they're going to be able to control it because, again, this is decentralized. It's out of their reach, and they're only using it with Bitcoin. There's many other cryptocurrencies out there. And if people decide not to go with Bitcoin and dump it and go with something else, guess what? They're in trouble, especially with the atomic swaps, where where people are able to swap different crypto coins with each other, and they don't have to worry about it. It might not be that big of a deal. But we can see right now that they're pushing their agenda because they want to control this area. They want to make sure that they force people away from it, and they are trying to figure out a way to stop what is happening. And more countries are looking at this. More and more investors are looking at this. And their biggest fear right now is the exchanges. Now, right now, they're centralized. They can control them, just like they had Coinbase, where they said, listen, you need to hand over all those individuals that receive funds of $20,000 or above. We need to tax these individuals. What they're trying to counter is the decentralization of the exchanges, where they will not have any control whatsoever. Remember, the central bank system, since they create this currency with a push of a button, it's not like Bitcoin. It takes a lot of processing power, a lot of time to create the cryptocurrency. The central bankers, they have the ability just to push the button and it's just created. There's no hard work involved whatsoever. And what we know is that they lend this currency they create out of thin air to governments. And the governments have to pay it back. Actually, the people have to pay it back. So there's interest attached with this. And the only way to pay this back is with taxes, because they need to collect the money from the people of every single country to pay back the Federal Reserve note. And this is how they enslave the people. If the cryptocurrency system moves forward and there's decentralized exchanges, there's no taxes. How do they tax something like this? Yes, they could create a worldwide tax, but again, they would have to get a lot of countries involved in this, and there are many countries saying that we don't want to be involved in this. And this is a lot harder to do than having each country tax their own people instead of having a worldwide tax. So they're afraid of this, and they're trying to stop this before this becomes a reality. And if you want to know more about cryptocurrency, I do believe that cryptocurrency is basically just like the internet. This is the very early stages. Nobody really understands what it's all about. And people are starting to catch on now, starting to realize what this really is. And we can see that there's a company that is creating like a little credit card that will hold your Bitcoin. It's like an offline wallet. And this is just the beginning. And if you want to learn more, you can go to the X22 Report school.com and you can join up to the school there and you can learn about cryptocurrencies. Or if you're already dealing with cryptocurrencies, you want to learn how to trade it, what are good investments, how to make money from it, just go to the trading room. You're going to watch experienced traders trade. They basically figure everything out for you. They say, this is what we are doing, and you can follow along with that. So it's x22reportschool.com, and all you need to do is go to the website and you can learn all about it. Now we see that job openings, they have soared by 472,000 to an all-time high of 6.6 million. Now what's very interesting about all of this, and this is coming from the U.S. labor market Deutsche report, where they're saying that job openings are just skyrocketing. Now, we're way, way above where we were back in 2006, 2007 with job openings. So what this report is trying to tell us is that we have so many job openings out there, we just don't have enough people to fill them. We've created so much business. Corporations, they're just opening offices all over the place. Retail corporate offices are opening all over the place, and we just don't have enough people to fill these positions. Actually, the opposite's happening right now. Corporations, they're really not hiring right now. They're buying back their stocks, profits aren't coming in, and they're laying off. Retail, the corporate offices are closing. People are getting laid off left and right. Stores are closing, which means more and more people are being laid off. So where are all these jobs coming from? Again, a lot of corporations, what they do is they keep their open recs, and from the top corporate offices, they tell them, listen, do not fill these positions, but we will leave the open recs. And we could see this is what is happening right now. Now, if we look at what happened prior to 2008, we saw we hit a plateau with job hires, and all of a sudden, in 2007, we started to decline. The same thing is happening here in 2018. We are now declining in job hires. And job openings, job hires, they're going to start to decline rapidly. And basically, once we started this little bit of a decline in 2007 and we moved into 2008, boy, did things ramp up and we accelerated to the downside. And this is what we're seeing right now. We're at the plateau and we're going to see this whole thing completely fall apart. We also see that TD's Ameritrade's Investor Movement Index dropped another 8.2% in April after plunging 12% in March, 23% in February. This is the biggest month-over-month plunge in the history of the index. Now, when we look at the graph, we can see that normally, we didn't get over 6 on the index. And all of a sudden, with the Trump spike, when he was elected, we moved all the way up close to 8.5. And then we took the elevator down to about 4.5. So something is going on here. And remember, a lot of these statistics are manipulated to make us think that things are doing a lot better than they really are. But when we get down to the nitty-gritty, we can see that housing, well, that's falling apart. The prices aren't as high as everyone believes they are. Yes, maybe in the 20 cities we see out in Canada, the housing bubble is popping. Australia, the housing bubble is popping. We see it across Europe, And this is going to start to accelerate. Now, if you're not seeing it in your area, eventually it will hit. Remember, prior to 2008, Miami, the Florida region, they were seeing a boom in construction, speculators all over the place. Up in the Northeast, what was happening was the traffic was drying up. Now, there was a 6-month or 8-month lag before Florida even saw any of this. And when they did, they were hit really, really hard. Everything came to a screeching halt. All building came to a screeching halt, and nobody was purchasing anything. And then all of a sudden, there were foreclosures. A lot of people were underwater. There were a lot of short sales, and everything just started to fall apart. And with these 20 cities, outside of the 20 cities, we can see that traffic is not the way it used to be. We see that mortgage rates are rising, kicking more and more individuals out of the market. So we see that things are rapidly changing right now, especially in Canada. That is going to spread all over the place, and this is just the beginning. We see that banks, they are preparing for an economic catastrophe. Now, we talked about Deutsche Bank before, where they were going to lay off about 10%. And they decided, you know something, 10% is not enough. We're going to raise this to 20%. And it looks like they're closing some offices here in the United States. And I believe what's going to happen here is a lot of banks are going to do the same exact thing. They are going to basically shut down many offices, lay off a lot of people to get ahead of what is about to happen, and that is an economic catastrophe. And we might even see these numbers even increase more so than they are right now. They might even go up to 25-30%. We saw this back in 2008, where all of a sudden everyone had a job, everything was fine. All of a sudden the market came down, and the companies were out there saying, hey, we're just going to lay off thousands of people. And you don't think the same thing is going to happen once again? I mean, these corporations, their profits, they're not making any. They're buying back their stocks. Retail corporations going out of business like crazy. A huge amount of space from retail is opening up. The housing bubble is popping. The rest of these statistics, the unemployment, the GDP, and everything else, they're completely fake, phony, and false. So basically, we're at that point right now where everything is starting to turn down, where we hit the plateau, we're coming over the plateau, and now we're declining. And we're going to see things rapidly fall apart. Trump and the Patriots, they know this. The central bankers know this. They know their illusion would only last for a certain period of time before everything started to fall apart by itself. And again, the central bankers would like to bring the economy down and control it. So with the Patriots, and we can see right now they're both trying to gain the narrative while the whole entire thing falls apart. This is why you need to be prepared and ready, because we are headed towards a transition. And as you can see, all these things are indicators letting us know that everything is falling apart, everything is declining, and we're going to see a lot more of this, especially when we move throughout this year. We're going to see a lot more completely come apart at the seams, and people are going to start to scratch their heads and wonder what is going on. And we're going to see a lot more banks come out and say, listen, we're going to have to, restructure. That's the word they like to use. We're going to have to restructure and lay off certain individuals, especially when the Fed has been telling us how great the banks are doing, but they all have to restructure now, which makes no sense, of course. But this is the excuse they're going to use, because what they're really doing is they're preparing for this economic catastrophe. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.